What the hell?
Sorry, you didn't like my stomach noises first thing in the morning, right? I'll try that again. All right, good morning, everybody. Here we go, get started. Leigh-Ann has been without water pretty much the whole weekend, so she smells insanitary. It's just horrible.
I need one of those Australian hats to bat away the flies. But I need to wear it around my waist.
Oh my God. Did you really have no water all weekend?
Yeah, it's been a long slog. There's been quite a few areas of Johannesburg that have been affected.
Ugh.
So it's not just a Leigh-Ann problem. But yeah, here we are.
There are going to be a lot of people who pitch up at work today. They're going to stink.
Shame. I think everyone's done their best to go to other people's houses to shower, to use pool water to flush, buy water from the garage to brush your teeth.
Use the water in the cistern of the toilet to brush your teeth.
There's no water in the cistern of the toilet. We wish. No, but apparently it's all over. I migrated to my brother's house, as you can see.
Yeah.
Also because I had load shedding this morning, but everything is apparently back to normal in terms of water for everyone.
So you're gonna hazard a trip home and see if it's all switched on.
Yeah, I'll see if hopefully the cats have run me a nice hot bath, with the mimosa. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. First thing in the morning, the cats have poured you mimosa. Oh, that's great. Oh, okay. Well, I had a good weekend. I'm not gonna moan considering what you've had to put up with no water. It was good. What did I even do? Oh, Friday I had some people around here, which was great. And it rained. Jesus, did it rain on Friday after? Wow. It came down in sheets. So, I mean, it's boring to talk about the weather, right? But I do love something about that kind of high felt weather where in the afternoon you suddenly get this torrential downpour. And then within an hour afterwards, it's like bright and shiny again. I mean, there was still a bit of light after the rain must have been around 5-ish. And then, by 6, before the sun had even gone down, the sky was this beautiful pink, orange, purple color. And it looked beautiful for 360 degrees. It's spectacular. You just don't get that anywhere else in the world. And it always feels like it goes on forever and ever and ever. You look up at the sky and it's just endless. Whereas there are places in the world, especially in Europe, the Northern Hemisphere generally, it doesn't feel that way. Obviously, I'm talking about, the few places I've been as opposed to everywhere, but it's just so beautiful. Really is special.
Yeah, for sure. We're lucky considering we're in somewhat of a concrete jungle. We're quite lucky.
Yeah. And then I did go to a beautiful birthday lunch on Sunday for a friend of mine, and it was just really special. They had this magnificent lunch that a friend of mine organized for her, and just again, beautiful summer, South Africans enjoying themselves, getting ready for December. You can feel there's that energy in the air. It's just amazing. It's really, really nice. Love it. Can't get enough.
I had that experience again, which is just so familiar, and I really love it. Is when it's rugby time on the weekends, and you go to the shop, and I've mentioned it before. They're selling boerewors rolls outside. There's a nice little queue forming. Everyone's excited, and the men are all in their slip-slops, running around, clappity, 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 clap, so happy with beers under one arm and bread rolls in the other.
Yeah.
Just so happy.
That's good. It's the best. So here are a couple of comments for you, Leigh-Ann. So first of all, someone says, Juliana says, you're dirty, but we love you.
That's dirty.
We could do with some of that rain in here in PE. Well, you chose to live in shitty PE, Jean. Sorry.
Gareth.
I have no sympathy for PE. She is lit. Joins us for the first time this morning. Here live for the first time
Oh,
with my boyfriend, who now loves the show so much because I always played around him, and he likes Leigh-Ann since 5FM. So it's a good morning for us. All right, well, you two, what a
very
power
good.
couple. You've turned him into a listener of ours. This is good. This is very good news. I'm happy to have you both here. Excellent.
Mm,
We needed canoes to get to an event. It was hectic but incredible, says Ruth, after all that rain on Friday. It sounds like
yeah.
the only time men are happy, 3Ann, is when they've got their slops going slap, slap, slap on the underside of their foot, according to George. All right, well,
Yeah, the rest of the time they're nasty and
yeah, just
abusive and
angry
just
and grumpy.
useless.
Yeah. All right, well, we've got to take your messages and calls this morning, whatever you've got on your mind. You can send it to us straight away on the YouTubes. You can also send us a WhatsApp to 071 783 6214. I haven't promoted the WhatsApp number for a while. So, when I don't do that, then people forget that they can send voice notes.
Yeah.
So let us know what's on your mind. All right. I'm really nervous about something. I'm nervous about spending money at the moment. Jesus, I know I'm not the
Mm,
only one. Huh. Like everything, I know it was Black Friday on Friday, and everybody was looking at specials and all the rest of it. And today's Cyber Monday, so
yeah. Yeah, but
everything's so
unless you're in
expensive.
the market for a new panographic TV or a king size bed
A
or
pornographic TV.
panoramic, I meant to say.
Oh,
I said panographic.
Jesus! I'm going to say,
Panoramic.
what's that?
Or like some big kitchen appliance, like a washing machine or something. It's like you don't end up saving that much.
No,
Plus,
what
I
I mean
think
is not just the
it,
saving. I'm thinking about how expensive it is to have the month of December, and
oh yeah. Oh,
most people are not. I've never had a bonus in December, so I don't know how that feels.
mm,
I've always worked for myself or worked as a freelancer, so you don't get bonuses.
mm.
So I don't know how it feels to get like a 13th check. I've always thought, wow, that must be nice, but it's never happened to me.
Yeah,
And
same.
and I know that lots of people who are used to getting 13 checks will not be getting them this year because it's been a tough year. The last 3 years, you could say. You're lucky to just have a job these days. So don't expect anything else. Um, it's it's tough to balance the books financially in December. I don't want to start off on a Monday morning being a downer, but
No,
wow,
it's just realistic. I mean,
shit's expensive, food is
yeah.
expensive, transport is expensive, um, holidays. If you're actually going on holiday, and I've spoken to so many of my friends in the last couple of days who've said to me, no, they're not going anywhere this December. They're actually just staying at home because
Hmm.
it's just too expensive. So I get that too. It doesn't have to be boring just because you're staying at home. But even if you're staying at home, it can be expensive. You know, whether you're entertaining people or you're going to other people, even if you're doing one of those, very South African things of like you bring your own meat and we'll braai it kind of thing.
Mm,
Even that can get expensive. So you've got to you've got to just be very disciplined over the next month because things can get crazily expensive very, very quickly.
yeah. And it's tough on um, industries that were affected during COVID, who thought that once COVID was over, everything would be booming,
Mm.
and people would be booking holidays and doing
Hmm.
that sort of thing. But they can't because there are so many other influences that are keeping
Yeah.
our pockets tight.
Well, I mean, Steve says, and this is right, people abusing credit cards with more interest hikes on the way. And
Mm,
George says also, people spend all their money in credit card debt on December, and then they spend the next half a year paying that down because the interest rates are going up and it's going to be hectic. So you've got to be super disciplined, careful, um, gentle, easy on your credit card and your wallet. Otherwise, it's
mm.
going to hurt. It's going to
If you've
hurt
got to
bad.
do the things that used to feel embarrassing before, like
Mm,
Googling student budget meals and budget shopping and
yeah.
cutting stuff up and freezing it and, hoarding toilet paper.
Oh my God, that sounds horrible.
Yeah,
That sounds
it's
terrible, but
it's a
it's probably not.
reality.
Mm. All right. Well, we got lots of things to get to. We got some news later on, which of course is necessary to check out on a weekly basis. We got to start the week by knowing what's going on. Also going to have Dr. Hanan, obviously, who will be telling us it's going to be okay. We need to hear that now more than ever. We'll be talking about burnout and what you could do at this time of year to, check yourself into a 3-week inpatient program. Because I've got a friend who did this.
Oh, it sounds good.
She just, yeah. She decided in, I think it was September. No, it was August. August, she decided because she phoned me from there. I said to her, "Where are you?" She goes, "I'm in this this facility, this institution." So I said, "Oh, really? You want me to come and break you out?" She's like,
Yeah.
"No, I just checked in." But I'll talk about it when we got Dr. Hanan on later, because it's actually quite an interesting thing, and I have so much respect for people who can do that, who can say to themselves, "All right, look, I think I need to just rebalance the humors, and I'm going to go and get myself sorted out," which is a tough decision to make for anybody. Because once you decide you're going to do that for those 3 weeks or whatever it is, you are pretty much at someone else's beck and call. You have to follow the rules, do the things that they tell you to do there. They monitor you, etc., etc. So we'll find out about that. And then we've got Angela Yeung, who is a jewelry designer, a philanthropist, and the founder of the Impilo Collection Foundation. She's actually climbing. This is amazing. She's just got back from Nepal. She summited the Mount Everest island peak at 6,200 meters. She was with a group including a bunch of people who we know in South Africa. And she's also been doing amazing things at Paris Fashion Week and presented a collection at the end of September at the prestigious Place Vendôme in Paris, which she'll tell us about as well. And she's raising money for other people, which is, here we are worrying about our own budgets, but there are people out there who are doing things for everyone else, which is spectacular. So I thought good to have Angela on. She's actually friends with Jen Sue and a bunch of other people we know, so it'll be good to get Angela on. I always see her at like these events when I go to them, which is rare. But she's a big supporter of these things. So we'll find out from her what she's up to.
She sounds like she has an interesting life. Certainly not an introvert.
Oh, no. She's lots of fun. There's an interest rate hike in the end of January, and there's another one now, says Ruth. I grow vegetables, so easy and big money is saved, says John. Okay, well, nice. I mean, I don't have a huge garden, and there's one part of my garden, I'd say it's probably maybe it's about a fifth of the total garden size, and I've tried really hard to grow things there, but it's just never worked. And it always looks terrible. And then I look at it and I go, this is a bit pathetic. So I've tried a couple of other strategies which are still yet to be proven. But one of them was somebody said you take all these old Woolworths bags.
Yeah, it was me.
Yeah, it was you. See, you're a genius, and I didn't even give you credit. And I'm going to try that and see how that goes for a while. But I mean, what do you grow? Like I will definitely use tomatoes, so I'll grow those.
You need to, when you go and buy seeds or seedlings, you need to ask what's best to plant now. That's the whole thing, is the seasonal stuff. And then you think something's dying off. In the meantime, it's supposed to be dying off at that time of the year. You haven't killed it. Or you think, why are the leaves yellowing? But they should be yellowing at that time of the year.
Okay. But what do you grow? I mean, what would you grow that you use?
I've grown lots of things before. I've grown just remembered, I grew carrots, and those the stems of the carrots are above, obviously, as they're a root vegetable, and they seemed so lush and amazing. And I pulled out these enormous handfuls to reveal carrots the size of my pinky. So those are quite difficult to grow.
Disappointing, miserable little carrots.
Chilies are fun to grow. Those are generally pretty hardy. Tomatoes are difficult because the birds get to them as soon as they turn red. So those are quite hard. You've got to make sure they're protected. Mealies are great, but they take up a lot of space and height. A lot of height. Green beans are good to grow. Then things like a lemon tree can be amazing.
I got a lemon.
Yeah, those are awesome because
That's handy.
you buy a pack of 3 lemons and you end up using one,
Yeah.
especially if you're living alone. Strawberries you can grow.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I mean,
These are good. These are good. Lungile says we must get Joe Camino back on, and we will. He's in Hawaii. You know, he lives in Hawaii now because he saved his money, and this is why I always say, good idea to get Joe to lecture the rest of us on what to do with our money. He lives in Hawaii now. He lives on an island. That is where he's retired.
Sounds nice.
That's good, huh?
Yeah.
So we actually have I think we've scheduled an appointment with Joe at some point on the show, so he'll be here soon. Don't worry. Lungile, good idea. Rebellious Ruth says, okay, hang on. She's talking to someone else. Here's Mapello says, on my credit card, I never use an amount I won't be able to pay off by the end of the month. I hate owing those people. Absolutely. Yeah. And then George just wants you to explain the Woolworths bags thing again. So go for it. Just, for those people who didn't pay attention the first time.
So if you don't have much good deep soil, or you have an area of sort of bad soil, you use those black Woolies bags, the fabric ones.
Which we all have too many of lying around anyway, right?
Yeah. To use a good bit of potting soil and fertilizer, and you plant your little seedlings or seeds in those. What's nice is you can also move them if they need to be moved. If you find they're not performing well in one area. Yeah, it was a TikTok tip from a South African gardener who I got that idea from. I think she was growing some herbs and potatoes. She was growing potatoes in those.
Stop looking down on little carrots, Leigh-Ann. They're good carrots. And David tried to grow cannabis. It's a lot harder than you think. Honestly, weed is cheaper to buy. Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I've never tried to grow it either. My sister has, and she's been moderately successful, but not enough, I think, to use. It just kind of grew in one corner of her garden. Tracy says, homegrown carrots don't look like the ones in the shop. They're rather odd. We've grown and made our own olives, tomatoes, herbs, strawberries, blueberries, butter lettuce, baby spinach, etc. Wow, it sounds like your garden is like a fresh produce market. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Aline says, I've grown everything in Woolies bags, butternut, gems, pumpkin, climbing vertically up palm trees.
Wow. Oh, it's so good to know it really works.
Ruth says, I had a massive crop of tomatoes last year, but awaiting this year, not so much. Love my garden. Get a few chickens while you're at it. Will go great with the millies. That fucking Joe Camino ruins my day. Imagine living with him. Probably has tomato crates for couches and reads the milk carton for entertainment. Tracy has got 12 avo plants that need to be planted outside. I'll have an avo plantation. Well, listen, avo trees grow very, very big. And the ones that produce avos are enormous. So it's going to take you a long while to get there. But good luck. I mean, that's fun.
Lovely.
Yeah. All right. So there's some useful ideas for you this morning. It's also, I mean, it's basically the last week of November this week. So this weekend coming up is December. And you know how excited we get December, boss. So it's going to be great. I actually saw a little video, which I'll play tomorrow for you because we got MASH on. It was on his Instagram yesterday. And I sent him a message and said, this is hilarious. We've got to play this on the show. So stick around for that one tomorrow. It'll be good fun. Considering it's the last month of the year, I think Christmas decorations are going to go up tomorrow here. So I'll have to rearrange things around the house so that we can look a little more festive and get off to a good start, because I am not going to have time next week or the week after. It's getting kind of busy. I have to say, like my December is filling up already, which is nice because then I've got a bunch of things to look forward to. But I do want to more or less keep it quiet. I'm kind of at home, with the exception of the week between Christmas and New Year. And other than that, I'm also staying at home. So no big trips planned.
Yeah. Even in at one of the companies I work at, we've all had to put in our leave and find cover for everyone who's on leave. But a lot of people are not actually going anywhere. They're just taking some time off, spending it at home.
That's nice. And I mean, isn't it, what I'm looking forward to is waking up late. That is such a bonus, like holiday thing for me. I know it sounds so boring, but when you wake up every morning at like 5:30, it's just 5 even most mornings. You get up and you're like, oh, it's so nice to wake up after the sun has come up instead of before. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
And it's just you somehow there's something that morning sleeps do. If you sleep in the morning, there's something about that that's so much more refreshing than an evening one. Going to sleep early. Something better about waking up late and going to sleep
Best.
early. It's so nice. And you wake up and you're in that sort of dreamy state, and you glide back into sleep, and you wake up, and it's the best feeling ever. I love it. All right, so let's look at a couple of news headlines while we're busy with all of this morning. We'll start off with what do we start off with? Hang on, here we are. Unqualified people will no longer run municipalities, says the president. Okay, well, you have to ask yourself, why were they in the first place? It's like,
Yeah, I
we're
mean,
gonna put you in charge of this nuclear power plant, but you were a domestic worker before that. But don't worry
yeah.
about it. So he was speaking at Lichtenberg in the Northwest, where he said government had undertaken steps to professionalize the public sector in a bid to improve service delivery. You have to ask, because this seems so obvious, you have to ask what kind of morons in the ANC thought anything else would be appropriate.
Yeah.
Like if you're not qualified and you aren't good at what you do, you should never have been in the running anyway. But it shows you how stupid their policies are.
It's like saying back surgeons will now need to have studied back surgery.
Correct. Stupid. Anyway, he was talking about how unqualified people will no longer be heading up municipalities. He said government had undertaken steps to professionalize the public sector. He said government had taken heed of the warnings by the Auditor General. Oh, good. Someone's paying attention. He does not want to see another situation like in the Disobotla municipality in the Northwest, which had its council dissolved by Parliament after numerous instances of non-compliance. Now, first of all, Parliament isn't that fucking smart. So for them to say that a municipality is so bad they need to dissolve them, can you imagine how bad they were? And I don't even know where this is, somewhere in the Northwest. At one point, the ANC governed municipality had 2 mayors, 2 speakers, and 2 council whips due to infighting within the party.
Oh, my
Ramaphosa said,
word.
yeah, exactly. He said the municipality should serve as a warning to other poorly performing municipalities in the country. So can I just say, this is where we need to be sensible about political office, because all we've got is people jockeying for power here. And there's a very simple solution to this problem. You know me, I'm a solution-oriented guy. So here's the solution. You just pay a whole lot less. You want to be the mayor. You want to be called the mayor. You want to have a mayoral chain and a blue light brigade, and you want to be opening the council, and you want to be cutting ribbons, and you want to be doing all kinds of things. Then you're just going to get paid absolutely fucking nothing. You're going to earn half. Whatever the mayor gets paid at the moment, they must pay half.
So in other words, to encourage people who really want the job out of passion to take the positions.
And people who are not in it for greed. So you immediately, the moment the job pays half of what it's paying at the moment, wherever it is, I don't care which municipality it is. Let's say the mayor earns 100,000 Rand a month, which is probably not wrong. Okay, so a mayor's earning 100 grand a month. Just slap half of that back into the fiscus, take a pay cut of 50 grand, and now the mayor's only earning 50 grand a month. That's still a lot of money. Compared to the average South African salary. It's not a lot of money, but it's a lot compared to the average South African salary. So now suddenly the mayor is earning half. You watch, you'll get rid of half of those bastards, the greedy, corrupt, venal, parasitic kind.
Yeah. No, you're completely right.
So there we go. Cyril, you want a solution? There's a solution. Because the day that you have 2 people, calling themselves mayor, 2 speakers, 2 council whips, that's because you're paying them too much. And they're not the kind of people who will get jobs anywhere else. They're not useful, clever, important and empowering people. They're exactly the opposite. So cut the pay. He
And
says
but
we are.
then
Hmm?
the opposite should apply in a good way to people like nurses who are there for the passion of it, and teachers, and aren't getting paid enough to even survive.
I don't know about this not getting paid enough thing. I mean, teachers, God bless them because they are great teachers, but they're also shit teachers. And teachers, one of the benefits of being a teacher is that you get long holidays. So everything balances in the end. Teachers get lots of time off. Think about it. Every time there's a school holiday, as a teacher, you get that day off too. And that's one of the benefits. You don't also get the pay of a CEO of a multinational corporation if you're a teacher. You
Yeah.
don't. We've got more teachers than we do CEOs because it's easier to qualify as a teacher than to be the CEO of a company. So everything balances in that respect. The private sector must determine its own rates. We can't mess with that. And I agree with you that there are probably jobs that are underpaid, but that's always going to be the case. And it's also a situation of supply and demand. It's probably easier to become a nurse than it is to start a business, for example. So nurses are not going to earn as much as we would like them to earn, but you can't artificially fiddle with that. What you can do is artificially change the pay that you give to politicians. And politicians seem to be
Absolutely.
the biggest problem we have. Anyway, he says we're going to professionalize things so we get people who are fit for purpose, not Mickey Mouse people who will serve in the municipality, but people with real skills. He said he believes this will reverse the trend of skilled people leaving government for the private sector. Well, Mr. President, if you get this right, I'm fully behind you. And you are too, Leigh-Ann, right?
Yeah,
Let's
absolutely.
just get professional people in here. We would love the municipalities to work better.
Oh, please.
Yeah. Silicide says they deploy the ANC cadres in areas where they can get kickbacks from the resource-rich areas. Yeah, that's true. Then they're going to steal more, says Mapelo, if we pay them less. I don't think so, hey? I don't think so. We have got to put in different processes for tenders and for government spending. And it's already really difficult because if you've ever done any work with government, you'll know the paperwork is absolutely crippling. Lichtenberg used to be my hometown, was once the most beautiful town in South Africa. Really? I've never heard that it was the most beautiful town in South Africa, but you're biased because you're from there. George and Gareth says, Sanele, qualified equals being an ANC populist member. And Gareth, we all know the dollar's keeper is just saying that, right? They're never going to actually follow through on the qualifications issue. Well, at least he's making the right noises. Sed says, you guys are quite right, but these guys are unemployable. That's also true. I mean, what are you going to do about it? We can find ways around this. I'm telling you. We also just need to be able to fire people very quickly if they're no good. Oh, wow. Okay. Elon Chief Twat says, Gareth, have you seen that the Chinese people have finally had enough of the CCP and are protesting? It is insane to see the Chinese protesting. Tiananmen Square repeat. Yes,
Yeah.
there are videos all over social media. Have you seen them, Leigh-Ann?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen the protesting because of COVID, where people are still locked up in buildings, etc. But I did see the protesting outside one of the biggest iPhone factories in China.
Yep.
And if we think we've seen bad protest action before, this is pretty violent. People, throwing banisters and chairs and really injuring the police,
Yeah.
and relentless. Like it just seems like it'll never stop, and there's no control. And huge swathes of people. It's pretty scary.
Well, I think it's fantastic that the people in China finally have, and I hope they aren't, like massacred and shot and beaten, because that is going to happen. The government in China has no understanding of like free speech or popular uprisings, and I love to see this because the Chinese government are really a bunch of dictatorial shitheads, and the government in Beijing, the Chinese Communist Party, one of the most repressive, authoritarian regimes that there are in the world. And you remember there were the Hong Kong protests not so long ago. People are talking about how China is making new moves and all kinds of ugly noises about Taiwan. And I really hope that they don't just subsume Taiwan into the rest of China. But to see this happening in major industrial cities and to see people going, enough. And you know why they've had enough? Because of these stupid zero COVID rules. China is still it's obsessed with trying to completely bring down all COVID numbers. First of all, I don't know who's still testing for this. Someone said to me over the weekend, "Oh, my sister was diagnosed with COVID." I'm like, but who's testing even right now? It's like the flu. We know that Omicron, which is the variant that is still mostly out there, it's kind of not a big deal. You know, more people got sick from other stuff than from that recently. So if you're testing, I have to ask, well, why? You're obviously paranoid. And the Chinese are still testing everybody. They're in very severe lockdown in some parts of China, even now.
Even
Like
to the point of really dangerous situations. There was a building where, because they they come along and they actually lock the exit doors so that these people can't exit. And there was a fire in a building in China about a week ago, which created a huge problem because people weren't able to escape. It's like that radical.
Good for I'm with the protesters every step of the way. Every single one. I'm with them. Enough of these authoritarian governments, and especially like China has been held up as this perfect example by people who love the idea of big government. You know, the Global Economic Forum and those shitheads telling us, no, this is China is a shining example of how we should deal with pandemics. No, it isn't. And look at what it's resulted in. So I'm looking forward to the Chinese government feeling uncomfortable for a few more days, and I hope it continues. And power and strength to these protesters, even though they've probably got no hope in hell because the Chinese government is so absolutely awful that they'll just roll tanks over them like they did at Tiananmen Square. My husband has flu, says Beth, and people have asked when he's doing a COVID test. Don't even bother. Don't even bother. It's ridiculous. You know, this time last year, we were still talking about this. Like it was a big deal. Some people were. We never were on this show. But some people were.
The people who live on the property with me were very ill with flu-like symptoms for a long time. And they're an elderly couple as well. So it took them a really long time to get over it. And when I finally saw them again, I said, are you doing better? Have you recovered? And they said, yeah, it was probably COVID. And she kind of shrugged their shoulders. They didn't bother being tested. They just waded through the symptoms.
Jamie says that testing is still pretty regular in the US, major cities like LA and New York especially. I don't think it's a big deal, though. Well, it is in those places because they're run by Democrats and they're also paranoid people. I mean, I saw a video yesterday. I can't believe that this is still going on, but I saw a video yesterday someone sent me of a woman. She's also a teacher in America. She's sitting on Zoom on her own in her house with a mask on. I'm like,
oh no, that's pathetic.
It's pathetic, right?
Yeah, I mean, she's again, people forget the mask is to protect other people. So who in her house is she protecting?
Doesn't even do that. They've now done the tests and they figured that all of that was pure theater. There was nothing else. Nothing else. It's ridiculous. Anyway, there was some World Cup stuff over the weekend. I finally watched my first match. I saw Argentina, and they played on Saturday evening. And now I think we've got to take on Poland. That was Argentina, Mexico. Now we've got Poland, which is exciting. So I'm finally getting into it. I knew it would happen. I was boring all of last week, but it is the group stage. And, if your team hasn't got a real chance of getting through, you're just like, well, we'll see what happens. But I'm getting into it now, so I'll keep you updated. But still not enough to talk about it too much.
Have you seen, there were quite a few journalists interested in what the Japanese were doing after their games.
Oh, tidying up.
Yeah, with the
Great.
bags and tidying up, and
Wow.
it's just something, you they interview people in their 70s who say, "I was taught this by my grandparents." So just generations and generations of handing down this, it's almost obvious to them, totally acceptable.
Well,
That
we talked about it on Friday, and we were saying like South Africa would be the opposite. Like, we leave a stadium worse than we found it. The
mm,
Japanese leave it better. So it is something worth discussing. Respect to the Japanese. Lots of people saying Mapelo says last year it was Asiba Happy. What's the festive theme for this year? We've got to still come up with it, Mapelo. I suggest you
yeah.
are put in charge of coming up with a theme. I'm hereby putting Mapelo in charge. All right. Let's see what else is in the headlines. You want another one?
Yep.
Um, Homeschool warning for South Africa report. Ooh, this is from Business Tech. So apparently, principals in South Africa have warned that children returning to traditional school setting after being homeschooled are likely to have a repeat year.
Mm,
You know what would be funny is if kids have been homeschooled and they've actually figured out like homeschooling is somehow better than the school system. Citing feedback from several principals, Report newspaper noted that these children have to be held back because they're far behind. This has the result of children ultimately having to repeat a year of schooling, with the principals noting they may graduate from high school only at the age of 20. According to City Press, virtual schools, which gained popularity during COVID-19, are getting an influx of complaints about the quality of their education. The Department of Basic Education has noted with virtual and online schools, they're seeing high school dropout rates, with traditional school principals reporting an influx of children waiting to return to classrooms. On top of academic challenges, the school said that the returning children also face challenges with a hidden curriculum of socialization and interacting with their peers. The principal said online and virtual schools are better suited to supportive or complementary roles in education. So,
that's exactly it. Homeschooling will not work without a parental system in place. If your parents work all day and you're doing this by yourself, it's not going to be effective.
no way.
You have to have parents driving most of it. I mean, I have friends with kids who would have to cut a meeting short because they said, "Oh, I've got this class starting now," or "I've just got to go
Mhm.
through the kids' calendar." You have to be hands on 100% of the time in order for it to work.
No, it's hard work. It's a full-time job, and I don't know that most parents will have got it right, but there are a few who probably did, and those kids will come out even better. But I
Yeah.
think, these principals probably make a good point, because even though the Department of Basic Education is quite shit, it's still better than unsupervised kids just, running amok at home and pretending that they were at virtual school.
Mm,
That's just not how it goes.
mm-mm.
So
Ain't gonna work.
seeing is believing, right? And I also think that, people have a lot to say about homeschooling, but until you've actually done it as a parent, you really don't have much of a place to talk about this. Um, and of course, our normal schools are so shit in South Africa that, there are probably a lot of kids who come out exactly the same, whether they were homeschooled or sent to actual schools. Um, Normal schooling is, according to some people, really, really bad, though. So you're going to have different reports from both. If I were a parent, sure, I don't know what I'd choose, but I don't know that I trust the normal education system enough, because I think it is just populated with some really average people. And I also don't know whether I'd be able to take on the responsibility of homeschooling my kids myself. It's a tough decision. And of course, for some parents, there's no decision because they don't have time. They just do not have the time to also be their kids' teachers. This is another reason why parenting is hard. Virtual school is not homeschooling, says Beth. No, I agree. But obviously, the principals at these schools are going to be saying homeschooling's bad, obviously, because they want to be seen as good. Bravo to parents who do homeschooling well. Absolutely. And there are people who've done very, very good homeschooling with their kids. In international news, in London, 3 white guys made a black man sit and sign papers this week. What's that all about? I'm not sure exactly what that means.
Hmm.
Yeah, so maybe you want to clear that up. Corona's boring. The decision to homeschool your child is a massive commitment, says Tracy. Absolutely. Why is Leanne's name misspelled as Lee-Ass? Well, that's what we call her.
That's how
Nicolee.
it's spelled.
Oh, I mean,
It
come
was
on.
decided many moons ago.
Right. Sorry about this, that you've only caught on now. South Africa has a new multi-millionaire. Apparently, the Lotto plus 2 jackpot was won. So somebody somewhere won. How much was it? 6,427,928 rand and
That'll sort
70
out a
cents.
few problems
Yeah.
and bring some of their own.
Yeah, sure. The next draw will take place with an expected jackpot of just 1 million. So watch everybody stay away from that one. But yeah, 6.427 million. It's not a huge payout. You hear about these European lottery payouts, which are enormous, right?
Yeah, like 500,000. No, $5 million.
No, they go into the hundreds of millions even. And here we are with like 6 million rand. Ka-ching. Anyway, look, it's still a lot of money, and I think it would solve a lot of people's problems, including, me, you, everyone, Leanne. Who wouldn't want that? Sudden cash
Absolutely.
injection of 6 million. Cunning Stunt says that lotto money will be gone within a year. Unfortunately, that is true, because what happens is people tell other people that they've won, and then suddenly you have family that you didn't know you had crawling out of the woodwork. Suddenly you have friends who are, if you could just help me, because now they know that you've got the money. So if you could just, forward me just 10,000. And before you know it, you're in huge shit and your money's depleted immediately. El Gordo is a billion. That's amazing. That's the Spanish lotto, isn't it? Still aside. El Gordo means the big one. How did this person purchase the ticket? I don't know, Ancient Ether. I'm not, what do I look like, the lottery news? I just know the amount. That's all I've got. All right, it's time to check in with Dr. Hanan. So it's going to be okay with Dr. Hanan Bushkin, is our renowned psychologist. He's the head of the Anxiety and Trauma Clinic in Johannesburg. And we're going to talk to him about something which I think is probably a bigger deal than people are willing to admit. It's this time of year that people get very, very depressed. They burnt out. They're tired. It's been a long year. Also, some people don't get as excited about Christmas and the holidays as I do. I feel like it's a boost to me, but some people feel it's a real drain. They have to see family. They have to take part in social events that they may not be ready for. There are a lot of things about this time of year that aren't straightforward, right, Leanne?
Yeah. It's the final push, and sometimes it's too much for some people.
Right. So we've got to be very upfront and straightforward and honest about these things. A friend of mine, not so long ago, back in August, said to me she was going to check herself into one of these facilities, like a mental health institution, you could call it. Oh, hey, Doc. Sorry, I was meant to bring you up there. There's
Hey,
Dr.
guys.
So we're just talking about this time of year and how it can be very stressful. It's not all happy and holidays and relaxing and being with people you really want to be with and all that stuff. For some people, there's enormous pressure at this time of year. And I was telling Leanne about a friend of mine who checked herself into essentially a mental hospital. She went in there. It's one of these places that you can, what do they call it? You voluntarily check into these inpatient programs in like 3 weeks. And she went in and she decided she needed to take control of her life again. She wasn't being, flippant and silly about it. It wasn't like a decision that she made on a whim. And she checked in for 3 weeks and she came out and she said it really did her the world of good. And that was all the way back in August. But I suspect there are many people who don't get to take off time in the middle of the year. For many people now, this is the only time of year where they actually get to do a little self-analysis and figure out whether they can do this. Also, you have to be able to pay for this kind of thing. It isn't for free. And I wonder what you think of people who do that, who check themselves into these places, whether you think that's a good idea.
So First of all, it is a very difficult time of year. This is the time where people connect and go on holiday and connect with their loved ones. And some people don't have loved ones. They don't have a partner at home. They might not have
Mm-hmm.
extended families. They might not be able to get to their families that might be living somewhere else. So this is a very joyous time for some and an incredibly lonely time for others. So it's whatever it is that you're going through, it is exacerbated. So if you were going through some level of anxiety, it's exacerbated during this year. If you were going through some level of depression, it's exacerbated through this year because what ends up happening if you don't have loved ones that calibrate you, you
Yep.
end up going into your own echo chamber, which can be incredibly traumatic. You know, I saw this
Mm.
meme a couple of months ago. It was a picture of a white room, and under this picture, there was a question: would you live in this room for 1 year for $1 billion? And the answer for myself would be I wouldn't do it for 1 week for all the money in the world. And the reason why is
Mm.
because a week later you go crazy. You actually lose your mind. We need people to calibrate us. So people that
Mm-hmm.
go, well, I don't need people, well, you do need people. We need people
Right.
that actually center us. But the question is actually engaging with the right people because the wrong people can really unsettle you, hence toxic relationships. The right people can really center you and make you feel in control. So going back to this time of year, this is a time of year where a lot of people are obviously meeting loved ones or engaging with people that love them and engaging with healthy individuals. And some people don't have that. And even your work colleagues can calibrate you. And now that you're off work, perhaps you're going on holiday or you're having a break from work, that can really unsettle you too, because again, you don't have your familiar structure and your familiar routine, which is also an incredible way to calibrate. Structure calibrates us, routine calibrates us. Having things to do, having a carrot to chase calibrates us, gives us a sense of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So what ends up happening is people get uncalibrated and some people turn into these rehab facilities, which are incredibly expensive. But the question to answer your question is it right? Is it wrong? Well, I always ask people is well, the first question that I ask people is why are you doing it? What's the goal in the first place? And is this the best way to satisfy that goal? So rehab can be really good for certain reasons, and it can be really unhelpful for others. So if you feel that you're not coping and you need a break from life and you want to get educated and you feel that you can't do and get over whatever it is that you're going through on your own, then rehab can be incredibly effective. But
Mm.
one of the things that we have to consider, guys, is that rehab is not life. You still have to go back to life.
Mm-hmm.
So rehab doesn't fix your life. You have to go back to your life and fix your life. So if, for example, I'm having marriage problems and I go into rehab, yeah, rehab might educate me on how to maybe deal with communication or maybe how to manage my environment in a better way. But I still have to go back home and manage my marriage. If I'm having work conflict issues, yeah, rehab might teach me how to communicate better and maybe how to set boundaries. But I still have to go back to life and engage with my issues. Remember, life is not an intellectual pursuit. Life is an experiential one. I can teach you how to ride a bicycle all I want intellectually, but unless you go out and really practice it experientially, you're never going to be good at riding a bicycle. Think of it about your work, Gareth. I mean, if somebody came up to you and did a year's course on how to run a podcast, you can teach them all you know, but actually it's the real experience that will teach them the finer details of running a podcast. And anything in life that's valuable, there is an experience element to it as opposed to just an intellectual pursuit.
All
So
right.
just take that into account when you're going into these rehabs.
I want to know though. You call it a rehab, but is that really what it is? Because I also understand that there are some people who go in not because they need to be, you know, weaned off of a substance or something. Because that's immediately what I think when I think of rehab,
Mm,
and it might be to deal with stress or to, you know, to kind of figure out their own mental health issue, whatever it might be, a depression, some kind of anxiety problem, whatever it is. Um, are there things that these courses, these check-in facilities can do for you that you would regard as being quite useful and worthwhile?
So one thing that they do offer, so yes, we call them rehabs, but you can go into these facilities for a number of reasons. It could be for drugs, it could be for alcohol, it could be for any form of an addiction, or it could be just to manage life stresses. And they have a lot of different multidisciplinary team in them, from art therapists to psychiatrists to psychologists to some of them have physical therapies as well. Some of them are really well run. But again, what are you going into these facilities for? So one thing that they do offer is two things. If you don't have a major, let's call it addiction, one is they offer you structure that you might not have in your own home. So you might wake up and not know what to do, which can be very unsettling, but there you literally are busy from morning to night. And two, they offer these professionals that you might not have access to in your daily life, or you might not even know where to start. So they have them all what should we call it, like a one place where you can find all these professionals are concentrated in that environment.
Right.
So that can offer you kind of ease of access to these really highly qualified professionals. But to answer your question, could it be useful for these individuals that are not necessarily going through some form of an addiction? Yes, it can be. But again, if you're looking for art therapy, you could actually get it in a much cheaper way at a very high quality outside these facilities. If you're looking for a psychiatrist, the same thing. But these facilities do offer you kind of a multidisciplinary professional team.
I love what you said at the beginning. You've got to get on with your actual life afterwards. So you get out of here, and then you don't have any of those artificial kind of barriers or assistance or whatever else it is that you have inside of these places. And you have to get out and actually face the real world. A lot of people don't want to face family. Maybe they find this time of year very, very sad and depressing. They feel extra lonely. They have enormous pressure on them. Are there little things that you can do to cope during this time? I mean, there might be someone listening to us now going, "Oh, I'm just dreading the holidays."
Yeah. So I always go back to basics and ask yourself, are there elements of my world that I can control? We've spoken about this during COVID, during like the massive lockdowns where people are like, oh my God, my world is in chaos. And I kept on saying, well, control what you can, focus on what you can control. And people are like, well, what can I control? Well, there's plenty that you can control that is incredibly valuable. Your diet, your exercise, your sleep, your routine, the structure in the day, create a sense of purpose, have something to look forward to, build something useful in your life. And when I say build something useful in your life, I mean something as small as, I don't know, do a Lego piece, to something big as build a relationship. But create this carrot for you to chase. And people go, what's the point of this creating of stuff? Well, that's what gives your life purpose. That is what makes you wake up at the end of your life, when you've finished life at 120 years old, and go and look back and think to yourself, life was meaningful. So that's what keeps us, or gets us out of bed. So to answer your question, what can people do whilst perhaps they're not calibrated through other people, is focus on elements of your world that you can control, and start with a sense of routine. Start with a sense of routine. Literally take out your diary and go, all right, what time am I waking up? What time am I going to bed? And fill in the blanks in between. So fill in the stuff that the days from, for example, having a breakfast, going for a walk. The weather's quite good outside, so getting some sunlight. Perhaps meeting one or two people that it means something to you. If not, create a hobby where you can meet somebody that has a common denominator, a common theme, or something that binds you. Create a new hobby, have a new interest, art, culture, creativity, some level of sport. So fill up your day with things that you can control, as opposed to, and this is important, don't find space to be bored and get into your head. There's no reason to be internal. People think, because I mean, some of these terrible self-help books will tell you just find time to sit down and go from within, go inside, think.
Navel gazing. And Doc, they've
Yeah.
done research. I will be less well placed than you are to reflect on exactly where this research was done or who did it. I don't know. I've just heard it tangentially. But apparently they've figured out that there is absolutely nothing that can distinguish the brain patterns and the way that people think when they're thinking about themselves or when they're depressed. It's the same neural pathways. In other words, when you're sitting there thinking about yourself the whole time, that is exactly the same as all the negative thought processes. You actually have to get out of your own head, thinking about other things outside, externally, other people. That will make you happy. Being consistently obsessed with yourself is probably the worst thing you can do.
So Gareth, I'll take it a step further. Listen to this. The only way to get depressed is to go internal. The only way to get anxious is to go internal. If you don't go internal, you cannot be depressed. Full stop. If you don't go internal, you cannot be anxious. Full stop. For those of you who are listening and are anxious or depressed, think about the times when you're most depressed, when you're most anxious. What are you doing? Well, you're thinking. But the moment, think about times when you're most happy and most fulfilled and most or less, at least depressed or least anxious. What are you doing? Well, you're busy with life. You're engaging with interesting people. You're reading something really interesting in a book. You are creating something. You're doing something. You're achieving something. You're chasing a goal. The only way to be depressed and anxious is to go internal and think. So if we can get people external, I say to people, there's no reason for you to be internal. I tell that to all my patients. It's a life principle that I teach. Do not go inside your head. You're not going to find something useful there. Go external and chase and create. Be outside, because that way you can't be depressed or anxious.
I love that. What do you think of that, Leigh-Ann?
Yeah, that's actually a new concept to me. I think because of seeing therapists and, taking medication and family members saying, I wish you would seek help for this or that, I've always seen that as an instruction to go internal. I've always seen that as a direction to go internal, and that going internal is good. So that's a hugely new concept to me, but it makes me excited, actually.
There's no reason to go internal. But the reason why people don't want to go external is because it requires effort. It requires you to set goals and chase and risk failure.
And Doc,
so people don't want to go external.
And we live at a time where everybody is constantly told that the best thing you can do is to reflect and to be internal and to think about yourself and to be even more selfish and to read these stupid self-help books or any of that stuff. The positive reinforcement for looking internal in society is huge, and it's dumb. It helps nobody.
It's silly. It's actually destructive. It's actually incredibly toxic. If you take anything out of today, it is about just going external and create goals that you can chase, that you can find incredibly meaningful. So think about this, Leigh-Ann. I'll ask you the same question. Think about times in your world when you were most happy and most fulfilled and felt most alive and most meaningful. I can assure you that is when you were engaging externally. You were creating something beautiful in your work. You were engaging with maybe a meaningful person. You were doing something really meaningful in terms of your life's mission and something that resonates with your spirit. Would you agree that it wasn't you sitting down thinking about the meaning of life?
100%. I mean, immediately I think back to when I was training with friends and family to run a 10K race.
Yeah, exactly.
And running that race, even though because I was the oldest and the most unfit in the group, they were ahead of me in the race, and I ran most of it by myself. I was never really alone. I was surrounded by people who felt exactly like me. It was just an amazing feeling, and I often think back to that as a very happy place.
And you know what? It's interesting. I know we're running out of time, but I'll say this. And people will say, yeah, but Hanan, Leigh-Ann was chasing, but the anxiety was still from within. She was hiding or running away from the anxiety. Nonsense. Anxiety is only created for everybody when you go internal. So you weren't hiding the anxiety. You were just creating the anxiety when you go internal. But the moment you go external, that is how you beat it.
Absolutely.
I love it. All right, listen, this is terrific. And we've all got something to think about now for this morning. I've just got to go back to a comment that was made earlier. You talked about how you wouldn't take $1 billion to sit in a room for a week on your own Doc. And Carl says, listen, Doc, if you want to win at the Jewish Achievers Awards next year, you better stop telling people to turn down $1 billion. Good.
Hold on, well, I'm just going to take a note of this 1 second.
And he also, Carl's full of advice here. He says also, there's no reason to go internal. How do you think babies are made, Hanan?
Hold on, note number 2, 1 second.
We all learn from each other.
Absolutely.
Well, just one quick thing before you go, because I think this is a very valuable point, especially it deserves some reflection at this point in the year. 2 years ago, I was stressed and depressed thanks to the ANC's lockdown rules. End of 2020, I couldn't see family, etc. That's when I became very anti-COVID. The cure was worse than the disease. And for many people, the biggest problem with this time of year is isolation. I'm not talking about COVID here at all, but that gave us all a feeling of what some people go through in December. There are a lot of lonely people. They feel very isolated. Maybe their lives are not so great that they have, someone they can talk to, someone they can go and spend time with. So just keep your head on your shoulders. As Dr. Hanan says, find something meaningful to do, even if it is just you in a room. You can draw, you can write, you can think, you can paint, you can make all kinds of exciting things happen in your life. I went with my 2 nephews and my parents yesterday to this place where you paint like ceramics. And really, the most fun thing about it was watching my 2 little nephews and their 2 different approaches to how they were going to paint these plates that they'd got to decorate. But it was such fun to see them having fun and to see them being creative. And you've got to learn those things at a young age, and you've actually got to encourage it with people of every age. It's a good thing to do. All right, Doc, that's all we get time for this morning, though, and we will catch up with you soon. Thanks for another good week. All right.
Have a great week, guys.
Thanks.
Cheers. Hanan. It is 7:00. Well, just after. We'll be back with a whole lot more in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. Leigh-Ann and I will be joined by some guests in the next hour. And of course, you can be a part of the show as you are right now. You can just join us by going on there and telling us what you're up to. The comment section, there's also a place for you to drop us the voice notes. And Ryan, I see that there is no break scheduled for here. So I don't know what's going on there. Maybe you can just figure out what's happening with that.
Welcome to the Third Draft Podcast, the show where we interview. Wait, do I start with who we are?
Catch the show.
We chat all about
Content creation.
the
business of content.
the business of content. Yeah, I
and
think
how
you can
much
take this
money.
one.
And how much?
Yeah,
Okay.
and then I'll be like, how much money or something. You
yes,
know,
yes,
you have to
go.
keep it a bit
yes,
funny.
yes. I'm Cynthia,
And I'm Mash.
and we are the host of the Third Draft Podcast. So catch fresh episodes every Wednesday on cliffcentral.com
On YouTube.
and on podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. I like that. I like that. No, you need to do that. I like that. Let's do it. Let's take it.
Microphone is muted. Sorry.
Yes.
Dumb move. Sorry.
My goodness.
I said Monday morning. I was just referring to a comment here made by Seven Kinea about the World Cup getting better. I hope so. I'm getting into it a little bit. We want to hear from you this morning. Lots of fun things to talk about, and I hope you had a good weekend. And if you're just getting out of your weekend mood and mode right now, well, I always find Mondays the best because I pile my plate on a Monday with stuff to do. So I have just tons and tons of things that I have to get done on a
Just
Monday.
forces you to get going. You need something to help you.
Yeah. You can't, like, if Mondays are slow, and that's why I know hairdressers, for example, usually take the Monday off, right?
Yeah.
And there's
yeah.
some businesses where the real work starts on a Tuesday. But for me, like, I love hitting the road running. And then, by halfway through Monday, you're like, I'm getting things done. Woohoo! My day is full. My week has started right.
Yeah.
So listen to what, I was talking about going with the nephews to this place where you paint these ceramics, and then what happens is you do all the painting yourself, and then they put them into a kiln, and they obviously bake them, and then they dip them in glaze, and then you get this really cool, like, plate or whatever it is. You could paint a little jug or some other kind of whatever it is, something made out of this bisque porcelain. Anyway, lots and lots of fun, a cool thing to do, and just a nice way to spend an afternoon. It takes like an hour or two, and seeing these two kids and how different their approach to art is just really, really interesting. It reveals a lot about people's personality too. Either way, Cassandra says she's been doing something fun. She says, I started a life drawing class this year. I paint naked people on a Monday night. It's 150 a class. I take wine, and I've met the most amazing people. It's my weekly reset. Great music, art vibes. I mean, wine, naked people, great music, interesting people for 150 Rand. Do it. Wow.
So you don't actually paint on the naked people. You paint
No.
pictures of them. But
Yeah.
still, I mean, I've thought about it before. Actually, one of my clients that I've recently taken on, they're an accommodation place in Yorkshire, and they do a lot of bachelorette parties, and one of the activities is that you can do life painting. And I thought about the initial awkwardness, but I mean, the people who organize these things are really good at making you not feel awkward.
No, but also
they set the vibe and they set the tone.
No, but the models in these situations are the kind of people who are comfortable being nude.
Yeah.
If you want to, I mean, I've never drawn or painted a nude before, but I think it must be quite fun. And also, if you don't have a lot of, let's say, artistic or visual stimulation in your life, it's probably not a bad idea. I mean, you're programmed to react in an optimistic, fun, kind of happy way to nudity, because otherwise we wouldn't procreate. So it's probably a good idea to get some endorphins going there anyway, just for the artist, let alone the model.
Yeah. I mean,
it's not a sexual thing,
No, it's not. I mean, it's for someone like me, who I wouldn't be able to even draw a cell phone, to be honest. To draw a human form would be really challenging.
Well, you see, this is the point. I mean, I watched my dad doing this. He's not artistic. My mother is very, but he had a lot of fun, just taking little dropper bottles and kind of making these dots all over things. And, you don't have to be the most talented. It's not a competition. And when you do these things, and really there are so many interesting places opening up now, places where, the kids are decorating the tablecloth, or, people are busy making something while they're sitting there talking to each other. There really are fun things to do that don't have to cost you an arm and a leg. And it can be a whole lot of creative output for you. You feel afterwards like you not only have had a meal, which you can also do at the same time, but you've created something. Like Hanan said, you've made something out of nothing.
Yeah. And lots of laughing, I'm sure. I do like Carl dos Santos's comment there. If you don't have an artistic bone in your body, perhaps this is the way to get one.
Oh my God. Cassandra says there's no touching the naked people, Leah.
Damn.
None of us, she says, are artists. So we're all there for different reasons. That's interesting. I didn't sleep well over the weekend, says Ruth. I felt exhausted on a Monday. Do we need that 3-day weekend? And she's talking about the Clay Cafe, which is where we went. But yeah, I do think that sometimes I want a weekend after a weekend, but that's where December comes in handy. What I'm also going to do this December is I'm not going to have like these really rigid, strict weekdays, because we've got the show to do in the mornings. But if I feel like going for a dinner with people on a Wednesday night, I'm going to do it this December. I'm going to make it, easier to say yes. To not be so goddamn restrictive and full of rules. And because I like rules, and I sometimes make too many. Learn to break away from those some of the time. Robin says, I recently was invited to a nudist dinner party, but I had to skip it. I had nothing to wear. Well,
the thing is, you've got to pitch up in something, don't you?
Yeah. Apparently, nude models here in the UK have a union called RAM, R-A-M, Registered Art Models. A guy was banned for getting boners and winking at the artists.
Oh, no, that's so gross.
Yeah, look, you don't have to draw nudes. It could be something else. I've always found it really, really boring as someone who has painted in my life to paint still lives. Oh God, I hate a still life. Ugh.
Really?
Like a vase of flowers or a bowl of fruit or whatever. It's the most boring thing ever. I can't stand it.
Have you done a portrait of Alice yet?
No. But I like painting people, and I love drawing things like floor plans and architectural renderings and elevations and that sort of thing. That's fun for me. I like doing that. People would hate that.
Sort of more geographical doodling, and there are quite a few videos from artists who help you do that in a good way, creating lines and coloring in certain parts.
Geographical doodling.
Yeah, so, not drawing something freehand like a penguin or something like that, but just doodling, maybe with curves that cross each other, and every part that crosses you add a little darkened diamond, and then you can color in all the parts in different colors, maybe even with water paints, dropping water on them so the colors bleed. That type of thing I enjoy.
All right. As long as you're getting something out of it, that's all that matters. No, but there are lots of things that you can do, and it doesn't take a lot to be creative. We were talking about gardening earlier. That's a creative pursuit. If you're planting things in bags on your balcony of your apartment, you're doing something creative. Yeah. You could fix some piece of furniture in your house. You could paint the walls of a room to a different color.
Yeah, redecorate your bookcase.
It doesn't have to cost you a fortune. It really doesn't. Someone sent me a video, and how I love these organizing, tidying videos. These people who everything is so organized in their house that I'm jealous when I see it. Like, they have a container for these things, and they're all neatly arrayed, and a container. Trust me, I've tried all of that stuff, and in some places I get it right, in other places not so much. But this one video, they had this woman who just basically went through her bookshelf, this huge bookshelf in a long room, and she arranged all the books by color.
Mm-hmm.
So she had a shelf with red books, a shelf with green ones, pink ones, black ones, white ones, purple ones. And it looked really cool at the end of it. And I thought, wow, that could be a fun thing to do. It doesn't have to cost you anything. Basically take an afternoon off and create some order in the chaos of life. There's something to that. There's something
Absolutely.
to establishing a bit of order in your own house. And then it makes it so much more pleasant to be in that house for December, because your chances are that you're going to spend a lot more time at home in the house over the next few weeks. May as well make it nice. May as well fix something that's not working, and don't look at it as a like, oh no, maintenance DIY. Bleh, this is so boring. Rather look at it as a chance for me to establish some really cool order in this place and make it a little bit nicer.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong.
And I think that's probably where things like Instagram come in really handy for people like that. I remember as a kid, I used to love organizing, even if it was just the grocery cupboard or the bathroom cupboard or something like that. And the kind of dopamine fix that you got from that was people in your family saying, "Oh my God, that looks amazing. Well, thank you for doing this."
Damn right.
And when you live alone, you may not have that, but that's where that's kind of calibration that Dr. Hanan was talking about.
Mhm.
You receive through posting that image on Instagram, or
Yeah.
sharing it on social media.
Listen, I've subscribed to so many of these channels where these professional organizing people, it's so inspiring. I just love it. I saw the most brilliant video the other day. I thought of you, Leigh-Ann, and I thought I'd better bring this up on the show, hence the discussion now. But there's this video about this guy who sells like antique furniture or whatever, and he opened up this a Georgian writing desk, but it's got all these secret compartments in it.
Ooh,
So basically,
love that.
it was so much fun. It only lasted like, I don't know, 50 seconds or whatever of this video. The most fun thing ever. You see him like pull out this special secret cabinet, and then behind that there's another area for storage, and it's just like this really cool old. It must be what 200-300 years old, this desk, but it's got little things that you turn, and then this pops out, and watch. I just loved it. That's
Love
the kind of
those.
thing.
But that leads me on to one of the stories I wanted to speak about today. And that was this couple in the US. They've been documenting all of this on TikTok. But they bought a home, a 130-year-old home. So not quite as old as your Georgian piece of furniture. But still, they received this letter out of the blue from someone in Canada, a bit of a mysterious letter. The couple are Courtney and Matt. And this letter said, "I was the last surviving member of the family that previously owned this estate. And let me introduce myself, etc." This person says, "I grew up in it, and I'd like to tell you something that the estate agents will not have known, and would not have passed this information on to you. I'd like to tell you about the secret rooms and a few things that you may not have been told when you bought the house."
Oh, wow. Okay, carry on. This is
So
good.
documenting that, you can actually watch videos of them reading parts of this letter to see if what they read comes true. So they took a tour around this. It's a rambling Victorian style home. And they recently purchased it from the Historical Society in their area. So it hadn't been occupied for quite a long time. So one of the first things that they discovered was this little hidden escape room, which led on from their bathroom. And Courtney, the female of the couple, says, "It's by far the scariest room that we discovered in the house, because it was kind of really antiquated and shabby." But she says the thing is, it turned out to be like more of a crawl space than a big room. So they went into the bathroom and they found this tiny little locked door directly opposite the loo. And then upon opening that, this opened up into a huge sprawling trunk room. And it's a space that they'll definitely use, but kind of at the moment they don't know what they're going to do with it. So they run these polls and ask people what they think they should do with it.
That sounds so cool.
It is.
Discovering like hidden rooms in your house. Amazing.
For me, the one exciting thing was this secret liquor cabinet that they found. It was it was above. Well, what I liked about this is that there were actual trinkets in there. It was above the fireplace in their front parlor, and tucked behind the sliding mirrored panel were all of these vintage spirits, these decades-old unopened bottles of French rosé wine from 1970, Cab Sauv from 1989. There were these aged containers of bourbon, beer, cream sherry. So that,
wow.
that was quite amazing. And then very interestingly, they had like a hideaway in another room, which looked like a bit of a creepy attic. And then little trinkets all around the house and pieces of furniture that were in these hidden places, including like an old music box. And this music box only plays one song. And she calls it a hair-raising rendition of the Wedding March when you crank it.
Wow. Wouldn't it be cool though to discover little hidden spaces in your house? I mean, that's where I think, most of our houses in South Africa aren't that old.
No.
So you're not going to find any of this stuff. But if a house has had more than 3 or 4 generations in it, it's bound to have little secrets in it. And how cool would it be to discover those things?
So fun.
No, I love it. What an awesome. Where did they find this letter, by the way? The letter that told them
it was posted to the house from Canada.
Oh, so someone sent it to them.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
But the letter itself was really secretive. It didn't mention much more than where these secret rooms were.
I love it. All right. Well,
Very
I mean,
cool.
that sounds like the kind of thing that you could spend your holiday doing, right? Exploring your own house. Very, very cool.
And again, then you get the gratification and the calibration from the audience by sharing it on social media.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the one video is 1.2 million views.
Social media can be handy, but you have to actually still be doing the real life stuff to make it worthwhile. And then you share it with a whole bunch of other people. But the idea of sharing, the fun times where people are on holiday, for example, and you're with your friends and you're really enjoying yourself, and you suddenly feel the compulsion to share that with strangers, that's odd. But if you're creating a channel and you want to, do interesting things and then share it with the world, I don't see any problem with that at all. Otherwise, people like us would never have known about stories like this. So it's a good thing. Let us turn our attention quickly to Angela, because I've known Angela for years. Angela Yeung is a jewelry designer, a philanthropist, and the founder of the Impilo Collection Foundation. And she just got back from Nepal, where she summited 6,200-meter island peak, Mount Everest. She was with a group including Sarai Khumalo, who's the first Black woman to have summited Mount Everest back in 2019. That was in May of that year. She's also been doing really interesting things at Paris Fashion Week, which we'll ask her about in a moment. But here she is. Angela, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Nice to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. You good?
Yes, exactly. I'm good. Good to see you.
Yeah, the last time I always see Angela at these kind of high society events where she always looks magnificent. And I didn't know you were climbing mountains. When did this start?
I remember we actually had a conversation. We came to Cliff Central in 2018. Do you remember? That was my first time climbing Kili.
I remember that you'd been doing this stuff, but it wasn't something that when I thought, every time I'd seen you out, for example, in Joburg, I didn't immediately remember the mountain. It's something you obviously enjoy doing, though, and it's definitely something great for kind of raising money and raising awareness and all the rest of it, right? I mean, when did you start first with your climbing stuff?
I think everybody have different reasons to climb. For me, I felt the mountain actually called me, and I mentioned it before that 2017 was the first time I actually met my biological mother.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And yeah, because my mom is Japanese and my dad is Chinese. If you know the history between the two countries, the Chinese hate the Japanese because in Second World War, a lot of Chinese was killed by the Japanese.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
was that big issue around Manchuria, and the Japanese came in, and there are still museums in northern China that are, you know, full of kind of the stories of all the terrible things that the Japanese did there. But so your mother's Japanese, your father Chinese, and you
Yes.
only met her back in 2017. That's an amazing story.
Yeah. So I think because of my jewelry brought me back to Japan, and I said to myself, I've been looking for her for 30 years. And I felt, this is the time I really have to go and see her. And I spoke to my Buddhist friends in Japan. I said to her, I'm really giving up now. For 30 years I've been looking for her. She says, no, I will help you to find her like a pin in the oceans. And she really just tracked her down. And then I realized that she's antique dealers. So it's actually in our genes that we all very artistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was really difficult, for the last 30 years. And you don't really see that of me. We're all trying to portray ourselves, to help people see you. And, she left me and my dad when I was only 3 years old. And it was very difficult for my dad because people would think, oh, especially in the Asian society, they think, what a loser that you can't even keep your wife around, And those days, it is very difficult for a Japanese to live in a Chinese community. So for her, I think it was so she just couldn't handle it. And one day she just decided to leave without even saying goodbye. So I remember my dad was holding me and ran all the way to the airport, and we couldn't find her. It was too late. And those days, we 40, 50 years ago, you can't, like, if that person is gone, it's gone. And you have to write letter to that person. And it would take a long time to track that person down. And you don't have fax, it's not like internet that we have here, like in these days. So it was really difficult for my dad. So he didn't know how to look after me. My hair's always in a mess. He put short sleeve over long sleeve for me, and he put a skirt on me. He's worried that I'd catch a cold. He would put a long pants on me. And, it's just like, and his family even said to him, you know what, why are you dragging this little monkey around? So why don't you just leave her at the orphanage?
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, and even that we have an aunt, she had mental illness, and they would say to my dad, why don't you just leave Angela with her so you don't have to drag her around? And like holiday was really a nightmare for me because I have to actually sleep under his office desk. He have to hire me around. So, it was very, very difficult for me.
Angela,
And
this is an amazing story. I didn't know this about you, and I've known you for a long time. What you're telling us here is absolutely extraordinary. Just knowing that, there are lots of people who've been raised by single moms. Very few people I know raised by single dads, and this 30 or more year gap between. How long has it been since you said you were 3 when your mom left, and you finally managed to reconnect with her? What, last year or 2017?
2017 is 5 years ago. Yeah.
Sure. Wow. I just want to fast forward quickly to your mom, and you tracked her down eventually, which is a remarkable achievement because a lot of these, a lot of parents who do leave, they don't want to be found.
Yes.
What happened when you two found each other, and how did that go? Explain that story to us.
Like you say, they don't want to be found because it's a lot of guilt. It was very difficult. Even if I tried to track her down, and she would try to avoid me as much as she can. So it was really difficult. And when my friends actually finally spoke to her, and my Japanese are so little because it's like I was still in my little girl speaking broken Japanese. And for me to even speaking to her was very difficult. And I can't even express myself. And she actually told me, we're going to drive from Tokyo to Kanagawa for 1.5 hours. And she said to me, Angela, we're not going to tell her that we are coming. You sit in the car, we're going to knock on her door. And when it's ready, I will tell you to come out. And that moment was driving all the way to Kanagawa. My heart was pumping out of my chest. You don't know what to expect, if she's going to run away or what's going to happen. But I think Japanese are very reserved, and when she knocked on the door, and by the antique shop, that she's inside the shop, when I saw the back of her by the window, oh my God,
Sure.
it was just that moment that you're trying to wait it for 30 years. This is the moment. And when my friend says to me, "Yeah, Angela, you can come," so my heart is still pumping the whole time. And just walking in, she was very polite and said to me, "Please sit down." And she knew that she kind of had that feeling that I'm going to come. She said to me, and the day that I met her, on 2017, 21st of January, it was her birthday. And I didn't even know this woman for a bowl of soap. And, it's just like the universe answered my prayer. And the moment you met her, it was a special day for her. She says, "Oh, by the way, it's my birthday. Maybe please stay for sushi," And it's just, yeah, it was the day that in my life that I've been waiting for 30 years.
That's unbelievable.
Sure.
Unbelievable, Angela. What a beautiful, beautiful story. Have you continued to maintain contact with her?
Yes, I try. Still a lot of guilt. I brought my daughter with me the year after to go and see her, so she can realize that she's actually a grandmother as well. But it was very difficult. It's also the same time that my dad had cancer, prostate cancer. And we found out she also have cancer at the same time. You know how it's ironic that they didn't even see each other for so many years, and they actually got sick at the same time. And I able to connect the two of them.
Wow.
There was, just a lot of things that you happen in life, and we're all trying to cover it up and to make the best of you.
Well, this is all stuff that you don't know until you start talking to somebody.
Yes, exactly.
I really thought this morning you and I would be talking about climbing mountains and raising money for charity and all of this stuff, which you do as well. But this is my highlight of the morning, to hear these stories. This is real human stuff. This is the stuff all of us can feel something for. Your dad, you said, got prostate cancer. Did you manage to connect the two of them? Did they ever see each other again?
No, they don't. No, but I actually told them, this is what happened to Dad. He's actually having cancer at the same time as you. And yeah, so I managed to go and see her in the hospital in Japan. And that crucial time, I was there for her. But it's still very difficult, because every time when I'm there, I kind of remind her what she did to us. And she's also tried to distance herself in a polite way, but I can understand that. But for me, and my daughter even says to me, "Mom, why are you going to see her? She didn't even want you." But she doesn't understand, because she have me the whole time. The whole time I'm there for her. So it's easy for her to say that. But I say to her, it is not for her. It's also for myself, that I needed that. I needed to. Yeah.
It's a very, very emotional thing. Angela, you also, must be strange for both your parents, because you live in Africa. I mean, it's such a place for you to be when you've got one Japanese and one Chinese parent, and you're doing all these amazing things here. Do they know about your work? Did they find out about your work here in Africa?
I think that's why I'm very active on social media. So sometimes if they can see it in the Facebook, they're still in the Blue Village. And yeah, so it's like, going back to why did we here in South Africa, because it's also a political reason in Hong Kong. So I born in Hong Kong, and those days, we are still very worried about Hong Kong going back to China.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that is the reason before 1997, we all trying to find a place to immigrate. And my stepmom have family here in South Africa, and they say to us, no, come to South Africa. This is a beautiful place. We have never been here before. We just pack up everything, sold everything in Hong Kong, and just come here in South Africa. And yeah, so it's been like 30 something years ago. We try to adapt ourselves here in South Africa because of political reasons. And yeah, but never look back. I mean, this is home.
Were you made to feel welcome here straight away? And are South Africans generally welcoming to you? It
wasn't, because I started in Bloemfontein. I was in Free State.
Oh, wow.
That's a tough one.
Yes, exactly. It was 1990, and those days was still apartheid. And it was very difficult. I don't know where I'm really fit in. Those days, most Chinese are coming from Taiwan. I can't speak a word of Mandarin. And for me, I really have to even try to fit into my community first. And I'm not Black, I'm not white. The whole time you're really trying to fit into this whole society and to be accepted. It was really difficult.
Yeah, I think part of your story that's resonated with me is where you said that your daughter was questioning, Mum, why are you going to see your mother when she left you alone for so long? And that's, in my eyes, and I obviously don't know your full situation, but to me, that's a daughter protecting her mum. She's protecting you from being hurt, which I think is really special. But hopefully she's been able to now understand your reason for wanting to close the gap. And then I think what must be really difficult for you, as you mentioned, culturally, there's something very different about the Japanese and their reservation and keeping their emotions inside. In any sort of Western movie or series that we were watching where families are reunited, one of the first questions that the abandoned child would ask is, Mum, why did you leave? And it must, you say that she's very reserved about that, and it must have been something that you wanted to ask and you were itching to ask all along. And were you able to ask it eventually?
Yes, I do. I did actually ask her. And, of course, it's easy for a person to blame the other person. And, so it was kind of a little bit disappointed because she was actually saying to, it was my dad's fault. And then, but then when I told my dad about my mom, that I actually met her, the first reaction he would say to me, so how is she doing? Is she okay? Is she healthy? That I felt like subconsciously I actually choose to be with my dad because, for me, we kind of move on and just to really doing our best every day and just to move, to a different direction and not to hold back. And it's very difficult to see people are still holding back and holding grudges. So I felt my dad is the one who actually raised me. So it's very difficult. It was torn between that feeling of, someone's blaming the other person. But I also can understand where my mom coming from because being a mother now. And like you say, my daughter also will get to understand more what we as a woman going through the older she get.
Well, I'm sure that there must have been moments, but your mother sounds like she sounds like the most tremendously stoic, kind of reserved, courteous, almost like makes sure that she presents herself in such a way that she doesn't give anything away. But I'm sure that in her quiet moments, she must have she must have thought about you a lot, and she must have thought about your father a lot, and she must have been very, very sad for a very long time. It must have been scary for her to see you.
Yeah, it is. It is. I think for her psychologically must be going through a lot as well. Even she told me that in one point she actually wanted to suicide. And so to me it was a lot to absorb at that time. And yeah, that's why I think going back to the reason why I'm climbing is because that's why I said the mountain actually come and call me. I didn't go and look for the mountain.
Yes.
And when Richard asked me to go and climb for Caring for Girls, and I say, you know what, this really makes sense. You can't actually give if you don't have. So when you only give when you truly have. So I felt, so 2017 I met her, 2018 I felt this is the time I should be doing something for someone else. It's not just about me. And having all this difficult time, this difficult childhood, I'd be able to relate to the girls. And that's why 2018, 2019, I actually climbed Kili twice.
Sure.
2019, I had an opportunity to go and climb with Tuli Madansela. And it was just such a humble experience for me. It is nothing about me, but time to share the story and for Caring for Girls.
Was it very difficult from a physical and preparation and training point of view, because you hadn't ever climbed before? And we've spoken to some people on the show before who've climbed some of the high peaks of the world, but Kilimanjaro is tough, especially if you've never done mountains before. Did you find it very easy? You did it twice.
No, the first time I was so scared. I was really worried that I even have my will putting it together and give it to my husband. And it just like it was really daunting. You know that you're going to do this, and but just trying your best, and anything can be possible. And I think for 30 years that I've been through so much, climbing a mountain shouldn't be too difficult. Does it make sense?
Yeah, well, it does, but I mean, you make it sound easier than it really is.
Yeah.
And when you do something like this, obviously you can do it for yourself, but there's a component to this that isn't about you. You said it already, that these girls that you were kind of trying to help along as well, and it's always good to attach yourself to a cause that you really care about. So tell us a little bit about the Impilo Foundation, because that you're wearing the shirt, it's something that you've started, you've been involved in for a long time. Tell us about that.
So 2020, just the beginning of COVID, I see like the suffering in our country. And I had an opportunity to do a food drive. And I just call out on social media, call out all my friends and family. We managed to actually collect 10 tons of food. And I don't even know what is 1 ton. And they told me, you have 1 forklift and 1 pallet. This is 1 ton. And yeah, and then we just have that 10 tons of food. And I just have to ask myself, who am I to give out those food? There was the motive for me to start the Impilo Collection Foundation. And we gave out the food to the orphanage, to the OH home, to GBV shelter. And yeah, at the shelter, I saw those children actually inside the container. They didn't have proper toilet. The whole time they're actually playing these 3 pieces of Lego the whole day. So it was really heartbreaking to see that. And later on, we received 1 ton of sanitary pad. And then we gave out to the informal settlement, to the HIV positive children. And the women who are working there and asked me, Angela, we need bras. And I realized also the girls are not wearing a bra. And men thought that was an invitation of sex attention, sexual attention. So therefore, then after I just did a bit of research and I realized, wow, last year we actually have 2,700 women die from gender-based violence. And then we just started this campaign called Empower Her. and start collecting bras. And I say to myself, no, 2,700 bras is going to be commemorate as 2,700 women. But then we're just receiving like people just driving to come and collecting the bras. And we collected 6,200 bras. And we'd be able to like display them at the Constitutional Hill like a piece of art inside the prison, women's prisons.
Yes.
Yeah, and we even gave a memorandum to the government, to the Department of Public Safety. And so we have a lot of, we call them social warrior, and to come from different walk of life, and just be able to wash them, pack them, label them, and give them away in the beginning of this year during Women's Month. And so we gave us all 6,200 bras to the 3,100 women in Gauteng. And that's the reason that I climbed Island Peak this year for 6,200 meters hike, to echo what we are doing as for Empower Her.
I just want to show everybody a picture. Here's the base camp, Everest Base Camp, which is pretty wild. I mean, to be there, that must have been a very special thing. You know, a lot of people talk about, oh, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that in my life, but to actually get to Everest Base Camp. And then here's a picture of you summiting Island Peak, which is quite amazing too. What does that feel like?
It was cathartic and it's achievement as well. You know, you put your mind to something, you train for it for the whole year, and that is just that moment you get to the top. It's only like 5 minutes, maximum 10 minutes. You need to go down, and you just build up that momentum, and pushing hard in your body and get to the time. Amazing. Yeah, it's like, that's why I said the mountain called me. It took me 30 years to look for my mother. And, I felt like it needs some kind of like person character. You need some kind of character to be able to climb the mountain, for the mountain. We here to face this mountain in South Africa. The thousands of women die every year. But what are we doing about it, So that is...
Well, it's amazing. Someone says here, and I couldn't agree more, in the comments this morning, they said, oh, wow, Angela is actually doing more than any lip service from a politician. And that, this is, you didn't know that you were going to do this, but it's amazing that you are. And I do want to quickly, because we're running out of time here and there's so much I want to talk to you about still, but tell us about Paris Fashion Week, because you were there just recently. You presented a collection the end of September at the Place Vendôme, which is no small achievement. So, quite apart from all the good work that you're doing, you're also very, very successful at your main work here. Tell us about Paris Fashion Week.
It was really interesting. I met this designer, Kakiso, from M&R in 2018. And from the township in Pretoria, they didn't even have money to go into the show. So what they did, they asked a friend to wear the garment and showing off outside the show. So how clever was it? And and then I start chatting to them and realized they have so much talent. So when in Pillow Collection, we had an opportunity to show our jewelry at the private school, and I just invite him, just come over and bring your garment. And the girls just love his stuff and start supporting him and buying their matric dancers dresses from them.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of this year, he called me mother, and we are going to Paris Fashion Week. Do you want to showcase your jewelry with us? And I thought, no, it's just like a scam, And he says, no, we actually have the support from the art and culture, from brand SA, and come and just be part of this whole Paris Fashion Week. So it was, just never underestimate the youngsters, because they are so talented in South Africa. They are growing. And at the same time, At the same time, when we went to Paris, it was the first time they flying in their life.
Mhm.
Like, it's just, so exciting to see through their eyes the world.
That's so lovely.
Yeah,
I'm blown away by what you've done here. It's really, really great to see someone like you making such a difference against gender-based violence. The stuff that you're doing with helping all these women to get bras, climbing, Mount Everest, getting to Paris, all of this stuff. And the most amazing part of this morning, and something I didn't expect, is to hear this terrific story about your mom and your reconnection with her after 30 years, which is absolutely extraordinary. It's just such a pleasure to actually sit and talk to you for a bit. And I hope we'll see each other some more.
Yes, thank you so much. Thanks, Gareth.
Great to see you, Angela, and thank you for being on the show.
Thanks.
Very good.
Ciao.
Angela Yeung, and what an interesting story. What an interesting story. What an amazing person.
I knew she was interesting from when you first described her. And I mean, I've never met her before, and I didn't know exactly what you were going to talk about, but I said she just sounds so interesting. Like her life is full of stuff.
Well, someone says here, and this is what's so great about the show, is that you never know what could happen on this show. It's just that's what's cool. Hanani says the unpredictability of this program is unmatched. Great show. Well, listen, it's because we try to find people who have a story, and then we get them to tell their story, and that's exactly what Angela was doing here. Just terrific. But I met her a couple of years ago already through Jen, and you sometimes meet people at these events, and you don't really get to talk to them very much. But I was pretty sure there was something cool going on there that would grab our attention, and that's exactly what's happened. Steph says, was about to log off, but then I decided this is an amazing story. Stay. Cool.
That's awesome.
Well, we are going to call it quits for the morning. We've got lots of things to do today. I hope your Monday is extremely successful and you get all the things that you want to done. I also hope that you are ready for the next month, because it's coming at you at full steam. It's the 28th today, so before you blink, it's going to be December. And as Sean says, don't forget to like and subscribe. We need all of that. It's very, very cool. All right. Thanks, everybody. We will see you tomorrow, 6 a.m. bright and early. Thanks, Ass. Have a lovely day.
Thanks, you too.